In Hollywood, Clint Eastwood is more than a man. He's a monument. For over 6 decades, his quiet intensity has become legendary, and his iconic stare could cut through steel. He built a career, an empire, and a mythos on being the toughest. Most professional man in the room. He shows up, he does the work, he goes home. No drama, no fuss. But behind that tough-as-nails persona is a director with a very long memory. And maybe even a list. They say Eastwood doesn't get angry. He just gets even, sometimes by never picking up the phone again. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on the feuds he never forgot. These are the top 5 figures whose on-set clashes and public battles landed them on the wrong side of Clint. Kicking off our list is a fascinating clash of Hollywood titans, the whirlwind of method acting, Leonardo DiCaprio versus the unmovable object of directorial efficiency, Clint Eastwood. Their meeting ground was the 2011 biopic J. Edgar, a film that brought 2 of the industry's biggest names together, only to reveal a fundamental difference in how they make movies. On paper, it was a dream team. DiCaprio, one of the most celebrated actors of his generation, was so passionate about playing the controversial FBI director J. Edgar Hoover that he reportedly slashed his usual $20 million fee to just $2 million. Eastwood was a revered director, known for getting powerhouse performances. What could go wrong? Well, it turns out, everything to do with the process. Clint Eastwood is famous for his one-take style. He believes the first take has a raw, authentic energy he wants to capture. He doesn't yell, "Action." He quietly says, "All right, go ahead." He doesn't scream, "Cut." He'll just mutter, "That's enough of that." This method is built on efficiency and trusting professional actors to nail it without endless tinkering. Actor Matt Damon has even said, "You have to hound him for a second take." Then you have Leonardo DiCaprio. If Eastwood is a minimalist, DiCaprio is a maximalist. He's known for his meticulous preparation and relentless pursuit of the perfect take. He lives for the grind, the repetition, and exploring a character from every angle. He's the guy who, even after a great take, will be the first to say, "Let's do one more." On the set of J. Edgar, these 2 philosophies collided. Reports described a palpable tension as DiCaprio, committed to his process, would frequently ask for more takes, and Eastwood, committed to his, would often refuse. One story perfectly captures the friction. After a take, DiCaprio asked for another, and Eastwood simply replied, "Nope, we're done for the day," and ended shooting right there. For an actor of DiCaprio's stature, that had to be jarring. The clash wasn't just about the number of takes. DiCaprio insisted on hours of practical makeup and prosthetics to transform into an aging Hoover, including fake teeth and a nose stretcher. Eastwood and the producers reportedly leaned toward using faster CGI to achieve the aged look. But DiCaprio, true to his immersive style, held his ground, believing the physical transformation was key to his performance. While this wasn't a public screaming match, sources suggest Eastwood found DiCaprio's deep-dive approach to be a form of over-analysis. In Eastwood's world, a prepared actor delivers. Constantly asking for more takes could be seen as a lack of trust in the director's judgment. While DiCaprio earned a Golden Globe nomination for his powerful performance, the 2 have never worked together again. It wasn't a bitter feud, but a clear lesson. Sometimes even the biggest talents operate on completely incompatible frequencies. At number 4, we have a feud that was less a single blow-up and more a cold war over the soul of the American Western. This was a battle between the old guard and the new blood, personified by 2 of the genre's biggest icons, John Wayne and Clint Eastwood. For decades, the Duke was the undisputed king of the Western. His characters were pillars of morality, honor, and American exceptionalism. They were heroes, plain and simple. Wayne saw Westerns as a way to uphold his conservative beliefs about God and country. Then along came Clint Eastwood, first in Sergio Leone's Dollars trilogy and later as a director, Eastwood tore down the romantic myth Wayne had built. Eastwood's West was a dirty, morally ambiguous, and violent place. His heroes were often anti-heroes, motivated by gold or revenge, not just honor. The tension boiled over in 1973 with Eastwood's Western directorial debut, High Plains Drifter. The film is a dark allegory of retribution where Eastwood's character commits murder and rape within the first 10 minutes. For John Wayne, this was sacrilege. He was reportedly so disgusted that he wrote a scathing personal letter to Eastwood. In it, Wayne expressed his disappointment, saying the film wasn't really about the people who pioneered the West. To Wayne, Eastwood was desecrating an essential piece of American storytelling. Eastwood was unfazed. He saw it as a generational gap. I realized that there's two different generations, and he wouldn't understand what I was doing, Eastwood later recalled. He explained that High Plains Drifter was meant to be a fable, an allegory about a town facing payback for its sins. Eastwood reportedly never wrote Wayne back. This clash had real-world consequences. Eastwood had a script called The Hostiles, and desperately wanted Wayne for the role of an older rancher. He sent the script to Wayne, but the Duke's rejection was firm and clear. It wasn't just about the script, it was about Eastwood himself and his cynical vision of the West that Wayne couldn't stand. As Eastwood's revisionist westerns grew in popularity, Wayne reportedly became more bitter. Though Eastwood publicly admired Wayne's work in films like The Searchers, the respect wasn't mutual. The dream of seeing the two icons on screen together died, a casualty of a philosophical war over what the American hero should be. Wayne saw the desecration of a legacy. Eastwood saw the future. Coming in at number 3 is a conflict that exploded into a full-blown public war of words. The feud between director Spike Lee and Clint Eastwood was so personal and so heated, it's impossible to ignore. The battleground was the history of the Battle of Iwo Jima. In 2006, Eastwood released his W12 companion films, Flags of Our Fathers and Letters from Iwo Jima. But Spike Lee saw a huge omission. At the 2008 Cannes Film Festival, Lee publicly called Eastwood out, pointing out that in over 4 hours of film, there wasn't a single significant black character. Clint Eastwood made 2 films about Iwo Jima, and there was not one Negro actor on the screen, Lee declared, accusing Eastwood of whitewashing history. Lee's comments hit like a grenade. When a reporter from The Guardian relayed the criticism, the then 78-year-old Eastwood's response was swift and brutal. "Has he ever studied the history?" Eastwood shot back, explaining his film was about the specific men in the famous flag-raising photo, none of whom were black. Then he delivered the knockout punch. "A guy like him should shut his face." The feud instantly escalated. Lee, never, one to back down, fired back. "The man is not my father, and we're not on a plantation either," framing Eastwood's remark as condescending. He called Eastwood an angry old man and challenged him to tell black Iwo Jima veterans that what they did was insignificant. The public back and forth was ugly. Eastwood doubled down, saying when he made Bird, a biopic about black jazz legend Charlie Parker, he used a 90% black cast because it was historically right. The spat grew so intense that another Hollywood legend reportedly stepped in to mediate. Steven Spielberg. As a producer on Eastwood's films and a friend to both men, Spielberg apparently brokered a ceasefire. Though they never met face-to-face to resolve it, the public attacks stopped. Lee later said the issue had been squashed. The feud stands as a testament. Cross Clint Eastwood's professional or historical lines, and you'll get more than a dirty look. You'll get a war. At number 2 is a conflict born not from collaboration, but from the pure, one-sided contempt of one acting legend for another. Marlon Brando, the father of method acting, and Clint Eastwood, the icon of minimalist cool, couldn't have been more different. And in Brando's eyes, Eastwood wasn't just a different kind of actor. He was barely an actor at all. The evidence for this comes from an unlikely source, Eddie Murphy. In the early 80s, Murphy was invited to meet the legendary Marlon Brando. During their conversation, Brando expressed a surprising and visceral disdain for one of Hollywood's biggest stars. He was going, "I can't stand that kid with the gun," Murphy recounted. Confused, Murphy eventually realized Brando meant Clint Eastwood. "Yeah, that guy," Brando confirmed, dismissively calling Eastwood, who was only 6 years his junior, that kid. Brando's disdain seemed to come from a deep disagreement about acting itself. He told Murphy that day, "Acting is bulls, and everybody can act." It seems he saw Eastwood as the ultimate proof of this idea, a movie star who got by on a rigid persona, not deep emotional craft. Director Sergio Leone, who made Eastwood a star, once offered an analysis that gets to the heart of it. He contrasted Eastwood with Robert De Niro, saying De Niro puts on a personality like a coat, while Clint Eastwood throws himself into a suit of armor and lowers the visor with a rusty clang. That image of an actor in armor, emotionally inaccessible, is likely how Brando saw him. To the master of vulnerability, Eastwood's stoicism wasn't a choice. It was a flaw. For his part, Eastwood has never said much about Brando's remarks. It's easy to guess what he thought. Eastwood built his career on no-nonsense professionalism and distrusted the self-indulgence that could come with method acting. An actor who famously mumbled through scenes and held his own profession in contempt would have been the opposite of everything Eastwood valued. There was no on-set drama or public fight, just the quiet, simmering judgment of one icon for another. Brando saw Eastwood as a hollow movie star, that kid with the gun. Eastwood likely saw Brando as the kind of high-maintenance artist he had no time for. At the #1 spot is the most bitter and personal conflict of Clint Eastwood's life. This wasn't about acting styles or history. This was a 14-year love affair that imploded into a decade of scorched-earth legal battles and a career left in ruins. The person at the center was actress and director Sandra Locke. Locke, an Oscar-nominated actress, met Eastwood on the set of The Outlaw Josie Wales in 1975. They started an intense relationship, living together and making 6 films. But in her 1997 autobiography, The Good, the Bad, and the Very Ugly, Locke claimed that her career became totally dependent on him. "If you were in Clint Eastwood movies, you were in the Clint Eastwood movie business," she wrote. People stopped calling. Their relationship ended horrifically in 1989. Locke claimed that while she was away directing a film, Eastwood had the locks on their home changed and her possessions put in storage. This triggered her first lawsuit against him for palimony. That suit was eventually settled. As part of the deal, Locke was to receive a $1.5 million 3-year development deal to direct films at Warner Brothers, Eastwood's longtime studio home. It seemed like a fresh start, but according to Locke, it was a total sham. Over the next 3 years, Locke pitched over 30 projects to Warner Brothers, and every single one was rejected. She later discovered the devastating truth she alleged in court. The deal was secretly financed by Eastwood himself, a fact he hadn't disclosed. Locke argued it was a fraudulent scheme to get her to drop the first lawsuit, effectively blacklisting her from directing. This led to a second, more explosive lawsuit in 1996, this time for fraud. The trial was a media circus. Locke testified that Eastwood pushed her to accept the deal while she was emotionally vulnerable and undergoing chemotherapy. Just before the jury could deliver a verdict that was widely expected to be in Locke's favor, Eastwood settled out of court for an undisclosed amount. For Locke, it was a win. "This was never about money," she told reporters. "It was about my fighting for my professional rights." The legal battles ended, but the animosity never did. Locke's directing career never recovered. The woman who was his partner for 14 years became his most public adversary, calling him the unfightable one in court. When Sandra Locke passed away in 2018, Clint Eastwood, a man known for his silence, remained true to form. He never publicly addressed her death. So there you have it, a look behind the granite facade of a Hollywood legend. From clashes of artistic philosophy to public wars of words and deeply personal betrayals, these 5 stories paint a picture of a man governed by an unshakable and at times unforgiving set of principles. For Clint Eastwood, professionalism is a religion. Efficiency on set isn't just about saving money, it's about respecting the craft. And for those who challenged his methods, questioned his history, or crossed him personally, the consequence was often swift and silent. The phone would stop. Ringing, the door would close, and they'd find themselves on the wrong side of one of the most powerful figures in Hollywood. His on-screen stare was intimidating, but as these stories show, his silence off-screen could be even more devastating. He remains a monument, but like all monuments, his legacy is built not only on the heights he reached, but also on the ground he was willing to burn to protect it. What do you think? Was Clint Eastwood justified, standing up for his principles, or did he use his immense power to settle scores? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this deep dive into Hollywood's hidden history, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more stories from behind the silver screen. Thanks for watching.